I bought into hustle culture for 5 years straight, and I want to tell you what I learned in the process. So, if you don't know, hustle culture is the idea that your value is determined on how many skills that you can acquire and perfect and give to the world. And then you use these skills to acquire money and wealth and status, and you just become an exceptional human being through acquiring these skills. And for about 5 years straight, from age 20 to 25, this is, all my eggs were in this basket. This was all I cared about. And, I didn't do it quite like everybody else did because I chose my own skills that I wanted to do. But just like the hustle culture communicates, I did it almost every single day. Now, before I go into my story, I want to say this from what I've learned, and that is, your worth is not dependent on your daily grind. Yes, there's a lot that you can gain from doing this, but there's also a lot that you can lose. There's a lot of sacrifice, there's a lot of mental toil that it takes on you, and a lot of the hustle culture says that's like the point. Yeah, stay hard, that's the point, yeah. This is what you're supposed to go through. This is the whole point. And it's kind of romanticized. That's why I fell for it entirely. But once again, there's a lot that I gained from it. So let's just get right into it. When I turned 20, hustle culture was at an all-time high. It still is. Honestly, it's mind-boggling that it hasn't fallen yet, at least in the way that we idolize it in society. But I decided when I turned 20 that I wanted to write every day. And this could be a sentence, it could be a page, it could be 10 pages. I just wanted to get words on the paper, or I wanted to type them. So that was the first skill that I wanted to really buckle down on. The second skill that I prioritized for my daily life was meditation. I wanted to meditate every single day. Sometimes 5 minutes, sometimes 10 minutes, sometimes very rarely, all the way up to about 45 minutes to an hour, I would just sit still. And the next thing was work. I prioritized work for about 4 years. 4 years straight, I said, I am going to work my life away. I am going to develop my writing skills, develop my ability to sit with myself and meditate. And then right before I turned 21, almost a year later, I decided to add a fourth thing, and that was to make music consistently. I bought a software to produce music, and I said, I'm going to work on this every day. And the main thing behind me doing this every day was the belief that every time I do it, I'll get better. And there's a lot of truth to that. There is so much truth to that, which is why I cannot just say I regret all those years. I cannot just say that hustle culture as a total is completely wrong and they have no idea what they're talking about. Because there is this, I am very attracted to the idea of excellence and becoming better at something every day and putting all your skills together and really putting them to use and developing yourself as a human being. I absolutely love that, and that's what drew me into the idea to begin with. So, yeah, those are the four things. I wanted to write, I wanted to meditate, I wanted to work, and I wanted to make music. And I crammed all four of these things into my daily life, pretty much. I am not joking you when I say for about 5 years, 90 to 95% of them was spent on these four things. And there's a lot that I can go into about what I gained, but there's also a lot that I can go to about what I lost. And I want to start with you about what I lost. And the first thing that I want to start with is work. When I prioritized working and showing up no matter what, even when I hated the job, even when I hated how I was treated, there's like this incentive, like I said, in hustle culture that romanticizes the idea of not liking it. You're supposed to not like it. It's supposed to be horrible. And that's the whole point. The fact that you're showing up to something horrible is the point. So I would show up to work and give my all, and I would hold 2, 3, 4 jobs at a time. And then I would come home and I would write and I would meditate and I would make music and I would do all of these things nonstop. But the working force takes full advantage of this person. They will chew you up and spit you out and act like they never knew you on the other side. They do not care how upbeat and good and determined and disciplined of a worker you are. It really doesn't matter. They are excited that you're willing to do that for them, yes, but at the end of the day, you are just a number on a clipboard to them. You're a statistic on how often you call off or how often you don't. So I was pouring a lot of my life force and energy and passion for life that could have otherwise been planted into more worthwhile areas of my life into the working force, the work world. And once again, there's a lot you can gain. I learned a lot about people and about dealing with managers and bosses and dealing with people and just staying busy and, time management and all these things. Yes, I learned all of these things. But when I was holding 4 jobs at a time, and I'm not joking, 4 jobs at a time during some portions of my life, I was giving my all to something that was giving nothing back. Yeah, I got money, cool, but if I have 4 jobs paying me $12, $13 to like $18 or $19 an hour, I could just get one job that pays me $25 to $30 an hour and work full-time there, and I would probably bring home more money and my life would be more organized on a daily basis. And I could get more done with all of these other habits in the background. So that's the first one. That was me giving my all, falling for this hustle culture crap for the workforce. And the next thing that hustle culture really, I lost through it, was you don't pay attention to anything else when you're in this worldview. When you are locked in, when you have tunnel vision, when you are completely interested in the goal of progress and nothing else, there's so much in the background that you're otherwise not paying attention to. And I'll give you an example. Firstly, these jobs and how little they cared about me and how they will just extract from you and be on with their day. I wasn't paying attention to that. I probably didn't even care. Even if you explained it to me in perfect English, I probably would have just looked at you like you were stupid if you explained this to me when I was in the depths of being on my grind. Because that was the whole point, was showing up anyway. It's not about them and if they're using me. It's about me making progress anyway and me finding out the hard way, because if I find out the hard way, I'll learn more. Once again, that's true on one end, but my friends were doing this as well. Not all of them, but when I am so invested in getting things done and growing on a daily basis that I put everything else in the background, it's really easy to be manipulated in this mindset. Which might be why hustle culture is still so big, is because it's easy to manipulate people that are locked in and everything else is invisible to them. Because it's an easy punishment to reward system. Either you're making progress or you're not. That's all the hustle culture cares about. Are you bigger, better, brighter, smarter than you were yesterday? If the answer is yes, then it feels like a reward. If it feels like you're going backwards or like you're stagnant and nothing's happening, then it feels like hell. That is your punishment. So that's 2 things that hustle culture really, they kind of feed into each other, but just you're easy to manipulate, you're easy to take advantage of, and you give in to people that don't care about you, which is harmful. Another thing that I lost was, like I've been saying up to this point, you determine your value on if you're making progress or not, which you're just signing yourself up for a bunch of unnecessary ups and downs, like a bunch. Because there are going to be those times where it feels like everything is aligning and all the hard work is paying off. But then there's other times where it feels like nothing's happening. and like you're putting in all this work for nothing. And the hustle grinding culture explains to everybody that this is a part of the process and you're supposed to keep your head on straight and do everything anyway regardless, because there is a light at the end of the tunnel. It's impossible not to make progress as long as you keep going forward and as long as you keep doing the daily work. And I think a very large reason that this is still in our culture today, especially at the volume that it is just look at the economy. The value of the dollar is going down, so the prices of everything is going up. We are all fragmented and separated from one another because of technology and just the state of the world today. So there are so many incentives around us in our culture prioritizing the person that will just go absolutely haywire on everything. Accumulate as much money as you can and focus on yourself, king, and all these different aphorisms and affirmations. And it's just very relevant to the culture that we live in today. We are stepping away from in-depth relationships and cheaper ways of living, so you have to really buckle down and focus on yourself and lock in to even survive at this rate. So I guess it makes sense. It's a supply and demand. The supply is going down, so the demand for people to step up and focus on themselves and make as much of themselves as they can is rising. But don't let all these ideas and this wave fool you. Your value is not determined by endless striving and competence and excellence. Yes, those are very good things to go for in life. They can be very useful in setting yourself up for the future, but you can really put a lot of important things in the background if you focus on this and make it the whole point of your life. And I had to learn the hard way for a lot of this stuff. And I learned a lot of things along the way and gained a lot of things. But it's being pushed more and more into the background of my mind in my priorities. Especially because I'm at a state in my life right now where not very much is going on. And it feels like all the progress that I've made up to this point was for nothing. And I'm not using any of these things that I worked so hard to achieve. And honestly, by not making it the whole point of my life, I am prioritizing myself more. I'm loving myself more. I'm allowing myself to not feel like if I'm not moving further by tomorrow, I'm not just a worthless piece of scum. Because honestly, this is how these ideas grow in you. And you're not allowing yourself to have any time. You're not giving yourself it could take you 20 years to achieve this. But if you want it tomorrow, you forget that you have all this time. And maybe you stop paying attention to your immediate relationships, or maybe you stop paying attention to you and your own needs because you don't care about your own needs. All you care about is if you're making progress or not, which is all I cared about for a long time. Now, like I said at the beginning, hustle culture is not all bad. There are some good things, and I'll probably make a more direct video in the future about that. This video is more about the pains and the drawbacks of giving into hustle culture. Because it can be a really good message if it's not just the totality of your experience. If you can take the kernels of truth that are inside the ideology, that's fantastic. Yes, progress is real. Yes, developing daily habits is great. Yes, you carry them with you for your life, and no one can take these skills and this knowledge away from you, which is probably the main pieces of truth in them that I actually really appreciate. But if you zoom into that and you make it everything, reality will start slipping from behind you and you will not see it coming. So that's today's word. You don't have to hustle. It doesn't have to define your life. It doesn't have to be everything that you do and all you care about, because ultimately it will kill you and it will drive you insane. So, thanks for watching.